A national survey asked people how often you eat out for dinner instead of home. The frequencies were as follows: complete parts A through G. Okay, so we have never at 182, rarely at 541, sometimes 940, most of the time 482, and always at 88. Now, part A, we want to create a relative frequency table here. So a couple of different ways that we do this. We can click this little button here and actually open it into StatCrunch or Excel. I'm just going to use StatCrunch. You may need to log in. Mine already logged me in. Now, I'll be honest, this one is actually easier to do in Excel, but I'm not going to teach Excel in here, so I'm going to show you how to do StatCrunch. And this is one of the few where it's actually just easier to do this by hand. I'll show you how to do it in StatCrunch, then show you kind of using a calculator. So you can go to Stat, Tables, and Contingency with Summary. We have summary data here. Okay, so we got a frequency, and our row labels are whatever the response label is right there. And we want the percent of the total. That's what the relative frequency is. And then press compute. Okay, so 182 is 88.15%. And then rarely is 24.23%, and so on. We have a total of 2233. If we add those up, that's what you get. So another way to do it, and I'll be honest, this is probably the way I would have done it if I'm doing it, is just take each one. So 182 divided by 2233. And there we go. We get 8.15%. Let's see what they want this in. Round to 3 decimals. So they don't actually want it as percent. They want this as decimals. So it'd be 0.082. And then do the same for the other one. You do 541 divided by 2233. And so on. And again, if you got it on StatCrunch, you can just kind of read these off. Be careful with rounding. We're doing 3 decimal places as needed. So like, for instance, at 3.94, it'd be 0.039. If you ever miss one due to rounding, let me know and I can easily override it. Now, you do get a chance to repeat the problem, but sometimes if you only missed rounding on one little piece, you don't want to have to do the whole thing. So you can just let me know. Now, what percentage of respondents answered always? So here's always. It's 0.039, so we'll say 3.9%. What percentage of respondents answered never or rarely? So now I've got never or rarely. Now I need to add those two. And I get 0.324 or 32.4%. And so this next part, D, says construct a frequency bar graph. Choose the correct answer below. So you can either kind of look at them and see which ones sort of match up, or we can get StatCrunch to graph this for us. So I can open StatCrunch, and we just have one response. We have one row variable here, and then the frequency. So that's pretty standard graph bar chart with summary data. So my categories are in the response and counts are in the frequency. It says I want the frequency. You have some choices of frequency, relative frequency, or percent, and so on. And we'll just keep all the defaults. And here we go. So which one of those lines up with this one? Now, one thing I don't like about what StatCrunch did is it changed the order of these. So let me go back and make an adjustment here. And I want it ordered by ascending, by the value ascending, right? So I need to do this by a worksheet. Now I've got never, rarely, sometimes. Most of the time, we need to move that. There we go. Okay, so which one aligns with that? So it looks like B is the closest one there. And sometimes you get more one check. This time I just got one check. Press continue. Now construct a relative frequency bar graph. Choose the answer below. Now you can't see the other one. Maybe I can move this over. There we go. I guess we can see all of them now. Let's go back into StatCrunch. Okay, so I can go ahead and change this, edit, and go to relative frequency. Now notice that it actually the shape stayed the same. Not crazy how they moved this. They actually just made the relative frequency here all the way up to 1. We can change that. Go to the y-axis. So I can click this little hamburger down here, y-axis, and change that maximum number to 1. There we go. So now everything is sort of much shorter, and it looks like the one, again, the shape stays the same, so we didn't have to do that. Looks like C is the correct answer here. I'm guessing they'll do a pie chart. Now I'll construct a pie chart. Again, you don't have to use StatCrunch for any of these. You can kind of just look at the relative proportions, but here we go. So I'm going to go to graph and pie chart, and I have summary data. So categories, response, counts are in frequency. Normally, I like a start angle of 90, but it's hard to know what they're doing on this one. And press compute. And so this is one of those times where it's actually easier if we didn't actually have to choose, but we just created it, and then we could copy it. Right-click, and then copy the image and paste that into a Word. That's what you're going to do practically when you're in other classes. You're not going to be selecting from multiple choice, but that's what we have here. So let's go ahead and take a look. So if I'm looking at these, the sometimes stands out to me. It's the biggest one. It's purple in this one. Here, the sometimes is the S, and it is green, so it's going to either be A or C. And then let's look at another one that differentiates. The A on A is super tiny, and the A on this one is super big. So let's see. A is the always, and it's super tiny at about 4%. So it's going to have to be A. Okay, so pose, a person claims 3.9% of all people in the nation always eat out. Is this descriptive or inferential? Again, like the last one that we've done, this is inferential because this is just a poll of about 2,300 people. So if they said 3.9% of those polled, then that would be descriptive. This is going to be inferential since we are making a prediction. Hope that helps.